All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich Celenza. Thanks for checking out my channel. So what I want to get into today is actually watches. If you've been watching any of my previous videos, I've been putting up a lot of things regarding, I guess you could say fashion, but a lot of different accessories, a lot of different pieces for clothing, and just trying to help dudes live an incredible life affordably, especially during the pandemic. Right now, I know a lot of people are out of work, a lot of people lost their jobs, and I know it's hard times. So, I want to just really help, I think, too, the younger people not necessarily make the same mistakes I made, especially when it comes to spending money on certain things. And I think, when I was younger, a lot of people, like now, loved collecting watches or buying expensive watches. Now, I first want to say, if you can afford to buy whatever the hell you want to buy, God bless, get whatever the hell you want to get. All right? I'm just telling you. But if you find yourself having certain, I guess you could say, I'm not going to say bad habits, but maybe spending money where you shouldn't be, right? And then you find yourself in bad positions every month or after a certain amount of time. First of all, I get it, but I don't want you to keep putting yourself in those positions. And I think when it comes to certain things, especially if you like to shop or you like wearing things that are more or less luxury, that you may find yourself a lot of times broke or in debt. And for what reason, I have no idea. But I will say I'm going to start with watches in this case because I love watches. I've even had a couple Rolexes in my time, and I don't say that to whatever, to toot my own horn. I don't have them anymore, but I used to. I even got my ex-wife what I get her, a presidential. And I also, I would collect certain watches. I even found a Concord Delirium, Concord, God, it's been so many years. Concord Delirium? I'm probably screwing that name up, but it was the thinnest watch in the world at one time. And it's as thin as a dime. And I wanted it at an auction. It wasn't working. Then I had it worked on. And actually, I had a very well-known jeweler actually try to steal it from me. I'm not going to mention who they are. I brought it to them to fix it. They were working on it, and then it disappeared. So I had to get a lawyer. The lawyer went back. We had it appraised even before that. So I think they owed me, I don't know, at that time, 17 grand or something. They didn't want to pay that. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they found the watch. And they fixed it for free. Go figure. But anyways, it was a very cool piece that I loved very much. When it comes to jewelry, I'm just going to say this. A lot of times in clothing, you don't realize after you buy it, unless it's extremely unique, right? And not every piece, but a lot of times you're going to take a big hit on it. Selling used jewelry is not an easy task. I don't care if you're going to do it online. I don't care if you're going to trade it in. Don't think a lot of times you're going to make money on your jewelry or even, maybe break even. Because a lot of times, usually when you need to sell your jewelry or you want to, a lot of times you need money and you're willing to do whatever you can to get money, right? So a lot of people will take advantage of you. Now, if you're a jeweler or you know a lot about jewelry, of course you're going to make money and you know what the hell you're doing. But for the average person out there, I think a lot of times they do get taken advantage of, especially when buying wedding rings and things in that nature. Just be very careful of that. I don't want to get sidetracked here, but back to watches. So the one thing I'm going to talk about with watches is I think, spending a lot of money, again, if you have a lot of money, especially now they have so many beautiful watches, is it at the end of the day worth it? I don't necessarily think it is. Now, again, if you just have dreams of having incredible watches or you have a certain identity and you hang out with a certain type of crowd and that piece is a big part of your, really identity and who you are, and it makes you feel a certain way and you just love having it, I get it. Do what you got to do. But if you're really not that caught up in it, I would just be very aware when buying watches, especially expensive ones. Because what I see happen, and when I say expensive, I'm not going to start saying 5, 10, 20, they go up in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But a lot of guys I know, average guys, let's say, you start spending money on watches. It could be $500,000 here, $2,000 here, and before you know it, at the end of the month, you got a car payment. You can't even make it, but you have all these, it could be jewelry or watches, whatever the case may be. You just got to protect yourself. I'm just telling you, man, a lot of things like watches or jewelry, even wardrobe, your clothing, You know, a lot of that is dead inventory. I talk about this. If you're somebody though, you know, again, back to collecting watches, if you have, say, 10 grand in watches sitting in your case, that's wonderful. How much do you wear them? How much use do you get out of them? Also, if you don't have, if you're scrounging at the end of the month every month to pay certain bills, but you got 10 grand worth of watches in your case again, or in your closet, what is that doing for you? Now, again, I'm not telling you to run out and sell all your stuff, but you got to kind of balance stuff out. And I didn't realize that either. I'm telling you a lot of times, because what I had to learn the hard way was, actually, I'll be very honest with you, my daughter got very sick, my first daughter. So I was spending a tremendous amount of money on trying to help her health, and which I didn't care. And I even hit hard times where I had to sell my jewelry. And I even, back to that Concord delirium, I think that's the name of it. I can't believe I forgot it to a certain degree. But that Concord, actually, I sold it to somebody, and it was almost like a curse, that watch. I was expecting to get a lot of money. I was basically going to still make money on that watch, believe it or not, because I got it at a really good price. And I don't want to name the shipping company and get nuts here, but so I shipped it, and they were not supposed to accept anything but, what did I have, a cashier's check, I think was, or a money order, and they guaranteed it to me. And this is in the early 2000s. So I shipped it to them, and I get a check back. I have no idea why. I go to deposit it. It's for a substantial amount of money, and of course it bounces. So now I go to this shipping company, which is one of the biggest in the world, mind you. And, you know, I said, hey, I insured this for X amount of money. You owe me this money. And what happened was, I guess their driver and this jeweler, or whoever, I think he's claimed to be a jeweler, were in cahoots, and they pulled a heist with a bunch of different people online with jewelry. So he delivered all this jewelry, and then these two guys disappeared. Pretty clever, right? Pretty interesting, right? And I was one of those people. I had to get a lawyer, fought, but it ended up being that they weren't responsible. They blamed the driver. The company, even though it was insured, which is kind of wacky, I don't even understand this, but my point being is I lost my bread on that watch. I still miss that watch. But, you know, don't wait for hard times to come, is what I should say too. A lot of times we create our own hard times. I know mine was pretty heavy because of my daughter's situation. But just when you're buying pieces like a watch, I would be more frugal. I would also buy, really, I talk about this a lot, as consignment or resale, but you can't get beat up. You can't go to buy, obviously, a Rolex that's not legit. And a lot of people get burned, especially online, even buying things personally. Make sure it's 100% legit. My girlfriend actually just found a $5,000 Rolex, I'd say roughly, for $800 at a resale shop, a woman's. And she knows the girl who owns the shop and guaranteed it. And I said, well, we're going to bring it to a Rolex dealership. I'm talking cars here, I'm sorry. A Rolex, we're going to go meet with them first before you commit. So she actually put the deposit down. We went and had it checked out. It was legit, and she paid her. And, you know, that's a great deal. Now, you can make, obviously, money on that. If you're somebody who's obsessed with watches, that may be the route to go. Not always paying full retail. You just got to get a little creative. And again, if you want to start buying watches again, I don't care if it's Craigslist, I don't care where you get them, meeting at a jeweler. It could be if you're buying a Rolex, I'm just using them for example, meet there. You could pay them a small amount usually. They'll take a look. Sometimes they'll even do it for free if they know you. Or any jeweler, to make sure what you're getting is legit, but you're going to save a ton of money. I am just telling you, compared to paying full boat. Now, if you love brand new watches and you want it to be yours for the rest of your life, I get it. And I am going to wrap it up with this regarding watches that I realized I have kept. It's funny how much I've lost a lot of watches. My mother just gave me one for Christmas. I didn't even, because I lost it in a week. I think it was in San Jose. I'm really aggravated. I told her, don't give it to me, because when I travel a lot and I go to a lot of gyms, you got to take off all your jewelry. You know, you're putting in a locker room. I don't even like walking in a gym with jewelry. You know, they see your watch. It's definitely an eye-opener. If you got a nice watch, they're going to break in your locker if they follow you, or if you look a certain way. Just a heads up regarding that. But my daughter, that one I was telling you about, the oldest one, I think they had something at school, you know, like where you go and you buy presents for your parents, and your parents give you a certain amount of money, and then you open them on Christmas, but it was like, they got it for you. So she came back and said, I got to get you something. And she was maybe 6 or 7 years old. And she's like, but it's expensive. And I says, what could they be selling at this little like school, whatever they're having, little for the kids or whatever? Because a lot of them said, hey, give your kids $10 and they pretend $10 per kid or whatever. And she came back, she's like, I said, what happened? She goes, it was too much money. And I said, well, what do you want? She's like, oh my God, it's like $20 or something or whatever. She said, I need more money. So I gave her more money. So I opened it up and it was a watch. And to this day, I have it right here. That's the watch that I've never lost and the one I basically cherish the most. It doesn't even work anymore. It's been worn, and me being in Florida, I guess, and maybe California, the inside has melted internally. Now, obviously, it's a very low-quality watch, but it still looks pretty decent, and I wear it, actually. It's with a black band, and it's black, and I wear it with a lot of galas I would go to, or events in LA or New York or wherever. People always are like, man, I love your watch, and I laugh because I probably got more comments on that watch than any other watch in my life. And now, I'll just tell you right now, I love Toy Story, Slinky Dog, so my girlfriend and my kids or whatever, they buy me things related to that with watches. Even I got a pocket watch, or like the one that hangs on the chain. I'm forgetting my mind here. But anyways, yeah, and obviously wristwatches. And I love those, and I love having fun with those. And I think if you're somebody, if you don't have a lot of money, again, you want to buy a bunch of watches, whatever, find something that's unique. And I think that's going to go a lot further sometimes than you having to put yourself in debt regarding certain things. And I think, especially if you got to go charge a watch for $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, or if you're just making payments to the jewelry store, or you brought it off somebody personally and you're making payments, I just don't understand it to a certain degree as I've gotten older, but I understand sometimes you're in love with a certain brand and you want to wear it, but maybe just consider starting small at the beginning, and also less is more sometimes. I know a lot of times when we start thinking about things, we want, it becomes an addiction like anything else. I got one watch, two watch. My dad collects watches. But the smart thing about him is, truthfully, he's got higher end, but then when he really started to collect a lot of them, they're lower quality, which is fine. He gets them at flea markets or gets them wherever he finds them, and he kind of wears them a lot and he beats them up. He's not so caught up in, getting them damaged. Also, after a certain amount of time, it's not easy to maintain certain watches. They start to have issues like anything else. So I'm going to leave it at that, but please just pay attention to your income. That's really what I'm trying to say here, and don't blow it on crazy shit. And I'm not saying watches aren't awesome. And I'm not saying they're not one of the coolest pieces of accessory. I think it's probably the best. I'm not a bracelet guy and I'm not a ring guy anymore. I still love watches. I think it brings a touch of class, especially if it's a unique piece. Also, and if you've seen any of my previous videos, I've been talking about a cufflink. If you wear a badass watch with a dress shirt with a cufflink, it's just tight. It looks great. So I definitely would recommend getting a watch if you don't have one. And if you don't have one, you don't have a lot of money, again, that does not mean you have to go out and spend a ton of money. You can get a watch for $30, $40, $50 somewhere. And, if you have family members, friends, or even colleagues, a lot of them just have them sit around and say, hey, can I borrow a watch? Or do you have any extra watches? Don't be ashamed of that. I've given watches away. I give my stuff away. So, again, if you got a father, brother, whoever, the friends, a lot of times they'll just be like, hey, you got any extra stuff? Hey, here it is. Don't be shy. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, check out my podcast, The Rich Celenza Show. I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You get a chance, subscribe. Any questions or comments? And I should have brought some pieces here. I could have showed you some stuff, but who gives a shit about what I got, right? Worry about what you get. And yeah, I will wrap it up with this. Try to get a watch that kind of works with everything at the beginning, I think. If you can't afford one, or you're just starting off, maybe stainless steel, or I don't care if it's even a vintage watch or whatever, but something that's also comfortable. A lot of times you may think you want a big, watch, right? And that's what happened with me with the Rolex. I got the big ones, And then before you know it, I'm very small jointed. Those damn things were a beast. And then I moved a lot of equipment. And I was banging it around all the time. And then also I was kind of afraid, back to the gym or wherever I go, I'm like, man, I can't leave it here. I can't leave it there. I got to hide it in the car. And then we'd be doing a lot of things, and you're like looking over your shoulder a lot of times. But maybe a big watch may not be for you. Think about that, because I think a lot of times when we think of badass watches, they're big. That's why I ended up going with that Concord Delirium. I hope that's the right name again, because it was the thinnest. And then that felt like there was nothing on my hand, which I loved. So the smaller the watch got for me, the better it was for me. So, all right, that's all I got for you. Take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.